Exercise 2. Go call that person you just had an imaginary conversation with. Make an appointment to tell him your resentments in person. You may also tell him your appreciations if you have any, or if any show up after your expression of resentment, and they probably will. Tell the person when you call that you want to meet him to tell him what you are mad about and get over it, and get complete with him. Ask him to meet with you as a favor to you. Persist until he agrees to meet with you. Exercise 3. Meet your enemy and forgive her or him, not as a favor to her or him, but for your own selfish benefit. Finish reading this chapter before you go to your meeting. You are probably a coward. You probably didn't do all 3 of those exercises. Maybe you never will. Now you know why most cowards like to think of themselves as heroes. They do it to hide. They are too afraid of other people to tell them the truth. They would rather be kind to their enemies than forgive them because it requires little courage to fake kindness. It's easier, less risky, less threatening, and less trouble. Don't worry, you are normal. Most people are too chicken shit to take a stand on telling the truth. In fact, you can start there. Admit it. Tell people. Admit your cowardice. Your unwillingness to tell the truth if anything that you judge to be significant is at stake. You lie like hell when you are scared, and you are scared whenever you are angry. Admit it. It's a start. Guidelines for expressing anger. Just in case you decide to grow beyond being normal, here are some guidelines for you to follow in expressing your anger. Reading these guidelines will do you no good if you are unwilling to experiment with this approach to see what will happen. This approach does not make sense. It works experientially. That is, if you try it to see what it feels like, you may get the experience of forgiving the person you were mad at. You may have to experiment with it several times before you get used to the process. It does work, even though it might not make sense. These guidelines are not moral rules to be memorized and obeyed. They are rules of thumb. The purpose of these guidelines is to direct your attention to the process of learning how to express yourself in the moment so that something happens to actual feelings in your body at the level of sensation. Something will happen because of your willingness to pay attention to your experience. These guidelines will make you aware of your moment-to-moment experience of anger or of appreciation. They are for you to be able to discover something about the process of expression itself. But beware of your mind. The mind is a tricky thing. The rules can be followed and still not work if you are only attending to the rules and not to your experience. The point is to be aware of your experience while experimenting, not whether you are good at following the rules. Your goal is to be willing and able to acknowledge to yourself and to report to the person with whom you are speaking each new experience as it emerges, whether or not it is comfortable. If you refuse to quit and keep talking to the person you're interacting with until you feel complete, you will eventually be complete with him. You'll have no more withheld resentments or appreciations, and you'll be able to experience him newly as he is in that moment. You will be open and available to the person instead of angry. You will love being with the very person you were once avoiding. Love is when you let someone be the way she is. When you let up on your judgments of someone, there is a free space in which forgiveness and love occur. Here are the guidelines. Whenever possible, talk face-to-face to the person with whom you are angry. It is impossible to do any of this work over the phone. The quality of the interaction is different. You need to look each other in the eye and react to each other moment to moment. Over the phone, your contact with the other person is much too limited, and you are relating to your concept of him, not to your experience of him as he is. You will miss many of his nonverbal responses. Take the time to see him in person. If he is a long distance away, a phone call is better than nothing, because it can start the process of experiencing the feelings. but don't engage in long conversations on the phone. To do so is usually a waste of time that increases judgments and displaces feelings. This is the reverse of what is needed when you're mad. Start your sentences as often as possible with the words, I resent you for, or I appreciate you for. The structure of a sentence that starts with those words ensures the anger or appreciation is personal, that there is an I and a thou. I resent you has a much stronger and more personal impact than I resent the fact that. In the latter statement, you are saying that you are angry at some fact. The slight difference in the wording may seem insignificant to you. It is not. Most people resist saying, I resent you for, because they don't want to get personal. They are uncomfortable when they are directly expressing their resentment to someone about something specific. While it is more comfortable to be less direct and say, I resent it when, it doesn't work. You won't be able to completely experience your resentment and have it disappear unless you are willing to tell the truth. You resent people, not facts or vague its. Neither will it work to substitute something milder for the word resentment. I am annoyed at you for, and I am angry with you about, are introductions to a story about anger. Those phrases deal more with a general description of a state of being than with the active expression of anger. I resent you is different in that it is active and transitive, something you are feeling toward another person in the present moment of speaking while the person is there. If doing this makes you uncomfortable, fine. If you expect to handle your resentment without discomfort, given how you were raised, you can forget it. Make yourself uncomfortable on purpose. Acting according to what feels comfortable when you are attempting to get over anger is a mistake. It's like drinking Pepto-Bismol to keep from vomiting, staying sick for 3 hours, and then puking your guts up anyway. A lot of people are also uncomfortable expressing direct appreciation and have as much difficulty admitting warmth as anger. Appreciations often emerge right in the middle of expressing resentment. Appreciations are to be handled in the same way and gotten over in the same way. Trying to hold on to appreciation works just as poorly as trying to avoid resentment. New appreciation for a person can only emerge in a clearing created by completing the experience of past appreciations and resentments. If you don't feel your way through appreciation and get over it, and be open to a new experience with that person, you turn your relationship into a soap opera. Your sentimental dream of yesterday's appreciation then sets you up for tomorrow's disappointment and resentment. Speak in the present tense. Just because you are talking about something he did in the past, don't say, I resented you. You still resent that person right now for what he did or said in the past, so state it in the present tense. In the past tense, resentments are only descriptions or stories about what happened or how you were. They won't change the nature of your relationship, of how you are now. When resentments are stated in the present tense, you get the chance to feel angry again and to experience the anger. When you can experience the feeling, it disappears. As I have said over and over, when you avoid the experience of anger, it persists in the form of apparently reasonable thoughts. The thoughts are poisonous and not constructive. They are destructive because they distance you from the other person. They allow you to avoid contact with the other person and your experience and to maintain your righteousness rather than express the anger and get off your pose. Eventually, get specific. Even though it doesn't always feel this way, you probably resent the person for what he specifically did or said. For example, if you say to someone, I resent you for being a snob, or I resent you for acting snobbish toward me, he won't be clear about what you resent, although he may imagine he is clear about it. He'll probably just say, I'm not a snob. You haven't told him what he actually did or said that you resented, what led you to the conclusion that he was snobbish. You are demanding that the person buy in to your judgment of him. You might begin by expressing a judgment, but you must eventually get specific. If you haven't gotten down to the specifics yet, You aren't finished. Look closer into what the person actually did that made you conclude that he was snobbish, and say that. In this example, the real resentment might be expressed by, I resent you for turning your head and not answering me when I said hi to you at the grocery store. Or, I resent you for saying holy hicks like country music or only hicks like country music the other day. Don't stop with general descriptions of behavior or general judgments. When you throw in the words always or never, the person won't get what you're talking about, and you won't get over the resentment. He doesn't have to get it. It isn't true. He hears only that you're trying to make him wrong. I resent you for constantly complaining isn't specific. Report the specific incident or incidents that you remember. I resent you for saying I bought the wrong groceries last Thursday, and I resent you for saying I guess I'll have to buy the groceries yesterday. Similarly, I resent you for never appreciating me, or I resent you for not being romantic, are both too vague and too global to be gotten over. Remember, you are doing this to get over your grudge, rather than to provide a case against your enemy. This resentment must be expressed more specifically, such as, I resent you for getting drunk and falling asleep on our anniversary. If you are too mad at first to interrupt your own mind by being more specific, go ahead and be general, but do it as loudly as possible. What you get from intensity will compensate, in the beginning, for what you lack in specificity. Just remember to stay engaged with the person and go back over the same ground in a more specific way after you blow out the vents. Focus as much as you can on what did happen instead of what didn't happen. When you resent someone for what he didn't do, that is, violating your expectations, look back to what he said or did to create that expectation. Express your resentment to him for what he said or did. Lousy as it may seem, you are the only one who is responsible for all your expectations, disappointment, and anger. You can, however, get over the misery you create for yourself by expressing your anger out loud, instead of living in a little hut of poisoned thoughts. Stay in touch with your experience as you talk. If you just present someone with a rehearsed, carefully worded statement about your resentment, you probably won't have much of an experience of your anger dissipating. It's important to express your feelings as they come up during the interaction. For instance, suppose your spouse reminds you of an obligation and you get mad. You might say, I resent you for asking me if I remembered to get Grandma a birthday present. You probably already felt guilty about forgetting Grandma's present. You resent your spouse for asking you the question. When you pursue the experience further, you may resent your spouse for telling you to get a present in the first place. You may resent Grandma for having a birthday. You may resent having a grandmother, having to buy her a present, being told to get her a present, being asked if you got it, the tone of voice of the questioner, the look on the face of the questioner, the smell in the room when the question was asked. You may resent the clerk at the store where you went for the present, who said they were out of Grandma's brand. What you need to do is tell the truth and have the resentment disappear is this. First, notice the bodily sensations associated with what you have called guilt. Feeling constricted in your breathing, cowering, feeling tense, frowning. And state your resentment clearly. Start with, I resent you for saying, did you remember to get something for Grandma for her birthday? Then, I resent you for your innocent, phony tone of voice. I resent you for your tone of voice when you ask me that question. I resent you for looking at me now. I resent you for frowning. I resent you for mentioning Grandma at all. This may sound ridiculous and unfair. Clearly, your spouse is not at fault and is being blamed. But note this. The unfair blaming is being done out loud. It is in the public domain where it can get cleared up, not in your secretive mind. People outside of you can be depended on to fight back and take care of themselves. You can depend on it. You don't need to protect your spouse from your irrationality. You will get set straight in a minute. Try it. What you want is the feeling of completion and wholeness that comes when you have told the truth about your petty, selfish mind and raised hell out loud like a fool. What a relief. You don't have to feel guilty now. You and your spouse now live in a new space. You may have some withheld appreciation to express as well. You can appreciate someone for the same thing you resented her for, and often do. You and Grandma can also have a more alive relationship if you tell each other the truth about your anger and guilt and sense of obligation. Go see Grandma and tell her the truth. What you put out there relieves you. What you withhold will kill you. Stay there with the person beyond the time it takes to exchange resentments. If you are willing to state your resentments and keep stating them as they come up and allow the other person to resent you for resenting him, eventually you won't have anything left to resent each other for. At that point, you're still not finished. If you can't think of how to end the sentence, "I appreciate you for," it may mean that you are still angry and that you haven't finished expressing your resentments. So keep going. Don't rush to forgive someone out of being uncomfortable about having so many resentments. Be honest about whether or not you really feel complete with the person. Being willing to have it take as long as it takes. It probably won't take as long as you fear. It will probably take longer than you like. After you have both fully expressed your specific resentments, state your appreciation the same way. Say, "I appreciate you for," not, "I appreciate the fact that." Keep checking your body to see how you feel. Are your shoulders tense? Do you feel relaxed? Do you feel like you want to get away from this situation as soon as possible? If the latter is true, there is more that you are withholding. Tell the truth of your experience, even if it's, "I still feel uncomfortable sitting here with you," or "I appreciate you for staying here and listening to me." When you feel warmth in your chest and a smile on your face, express your appreciation in a clear way. "I appreciate you for the way you look right now," or "I appreciate you for agreeing to do this experiment with me." After some appreciations are expressed, some more resentments may emerge. If that happens, express those resentments and go on. Eventually, you will just be sitting in a room looking at a person. You will see clearer. You will be willing to live and let live. You will be grateful to her for having stuck with you through another fight. Keep it up. After an emotional exchange in which two people tell the truth, they often retreat to superficiality. People notice that even though they felt loving and inspired after they talked, weeks may go by before they see each other again. This is not an accident. After we release our withheld anger, we discover our appreciation. More often than not, we realize that we really love this person. People are scared of feeling anger, but they are terrified of experiencing love. It's no wonder that when an authentic exchange occurs, the next time that two people meet, they will talk about anything but their real feelings. One may say as an aside, "You know, I'm so glad we had that talk last time. It meant so much to me." Then they'll switch to the subject of something trivial. Once you have broken through to another person by telling the truth, you have an incredible opportunity to have a real, alive relationship. The two of you can support each other to continue to tell the truth. It takes practice. You will tend to withhold your feelings on later occasions because you have practiced that for years, but you can always clean it up with the person as soon as you realize that you are withholding.